Welcome back to BamBAEzled, the show that is here to help us all better navigate our relationships. On this show, we examine the dynamics of modern relationships, their perks and pitfalls through the lens of self-awareness. Yes, whether or not your bae may be the problem is not why we're here, because the external is never really in our control. What is, though, is us. We each have agency over ourselves, how we choose to show up in life, and how we allow others show up in our lives. The only way that we can have better relationships out there is if we take the time to develop and become better versions of ourselves in here. And that is where BamBAEzled comes in. Here we bring the focus back inwards. We bring the focus back to ourselves. Instead of just dwelling on what the other person is doing, whether the other person is wrong, how can I please my partner? Instead of keeping the focus on the external, we bring it back to the internal. How are we showing up? What can we do differently? What can we do better for ourselves and then for the kind of relationship we want to have? My job is to make sure that you are not being bamboozled by your bae. And that's past, present, or future bae. No bamboozling here, not any longer. So whether you're looking for clarity in your own relationship or simply trying to help someone else that you think might be struggling, BamBAEzled is where you can get all the relationship cheat codes. Now, this week, we are continuing with our emotional abuse series. Yes, we started a series a couple of weeks ago. My bad. I'm sorry. A couple of weeks ago, where we are trying to take a very deep and extensive dive into the world of emotional abuse, what it looks like, what it sounds like, how it presents, the effects it has on the victim, and I know people don't like that word, so let's say the people that are receiving that abuse, why it's so hard for people to leave and break away, and how you can do that if you've come to the point in your life where you're tired of being tossed to and fro by another person's emotional dysfunction. Now, in the first installment of this series, we talked about what abuse looks like. We gave a long list, and somewhere on this screen, I'm going to link that video. 23 signs of emotional abuse, the tactics, the things that the abuser does, and many of them were actually quite surprising. We know the big five, I think, but there's many other subtle ones, and we were able to pull out a list of 23 abusive tactics, and I would like you to check that out if you haven't before you come back to this video, because that's the only way that this video is going to make sense. Because in this second installment, we're going to be talking about the intended effect that these abusive tactics are meant to have on the receiver. Today, we're going deep into the hidden intentions behind abusive behavior. What is the abuser really after? What are they actually trying to achieve? And why is it so hard for us to recognize when we are being abused, especially when it's by someone or coming from someone that we really love or someone that's really close to us? Whether you're in this situation or know someone who is and you are concerned about them, this episode aims at helping clear the fog, remove the scales from our eyes, and help us see clearer. If not all the way through, it will help us begin to understand what's going on, what's been happening to us, and why we might feel very different than who we were before we got into this relationship. Let's get into today's episode.
Does she like me? Was that a date or a hang? Is she single? Wait, what are we? Is it too soon to say I love you? Should I call him now or should I just wait? Maybe I should wait. Wait, should I let her go? Why did he just ghost me like that? Wait, can't we work it out? Is he an F-boy? Is she toxic? We hooked up. Why is he saying we're just friends? Let's face it, relationships are the best thing when they work and a nightmare when they flop. You're recklessly giddy when Cupid's arrow sticks you in the ass and a nervous, pain-filled wreck when he comes to take his love away. There's hardly anyone who cannot relate to the dizzying highs and debilitating lows of relationships. We are naturally wired for connection, so when that's messed with, it can make us feel crazy. Enter BamBAEzled. On this show, we help you figure out if you are being bamboozled by your bae. That's it. Nothing else, nothing fancy, just a real, raw, honest to heavens, and hopefully helpful take on the best to the worst of relationships and everything on the spectrum in between. No topic is off limits, no situation is too taboo or embarrassing. Give us everything. So, if you're wondering if you're being bamboozled by your bae, don't walk, run here. This is your new home. I am your new bestie, and I've got you. Now, let's figure out if you're being BamBAEzled.
So, let's get one thing very clear. Emotional abuse is about one thing and one thing only. One thing and one thing only. It doesn't matter how many iterations of abuse there are. It doesn't matter how many forms or tactics or ploys or what have you. There's only one intended agenda when it comes to abuse of any kind. And that is control. Control. Now, everything you're going to hear during the course of this series, try to keep in mind that the one major goal, even though we're going to break it down into sub goals, the major goal is control. So emotionally abusive people are not content with just being in a relationship. Because I hear, it's something I used to ask myself as well. Before I started learning about the human brain, the human psyche, before I started down a psychological path, I used to ask myself, when I first started, I was like, but why would anybody want to hurt another person that didn't do anything to you? In fact, sometimes it's hard enough to hurt the people who have done something to you. And if you are, well enough adjusted, you can easily let some things go. So why would someone just want to hurt another person who hasn't done anything to them? Worse still, a person who actually loves them and does good things for them and tries to make their lives better. Why would your first thought be to subdue and control this person? And as I studied more, I began to understand why a person would need to abuse another person, especially someone who genuinely loves them. Abusers need to control how you feel about yourself, about the world, about other people. Abusers need to be able to tweak and twist and turn and control everything about your life. And I'm just going to give you like a little bit of expo because I think it's kind of obvious. The reason they need to do this is one, they don't feel like they're very in control of their own lives, and it scares them. And so if they cannot get control of their own lives, they're going to get control of someone else's to give them a false sense of control over their own lives. But I'm not going to get ahead of myself. We're going to get there. So we were saying that abusers need to control everything about you, how you feel, how you see yourself, how you think, how others think about you, and how you think about others. And they do this through sometimes very overt, sometimes in very overt ways, but most often is in very covert, almost like subterfuge. Emotional abusers will use these subtle little methods that can often go unnoticed if to the untrained eye, to get that control that they so crave and need to have. So the things they do are meant to foster emotional dependence. They want you to need them and not need them in a healthy way, because I believe that in every healthy relationship, you both need each other. That's why you're in a relationship, right? But with abusive people or emotionally maladjusted people, I think that's a better way to call it, they want you to need them to an unhealthy extent, to a point where you are unable to function without them. That is not healthy. That is not good. Think about it like addiction. Now, when a person becomes addicted to drugs, becomes addicted to alcohol, becomes addicted to anything, they can no longer function without that thing. And where drugs, alcohol, sex, whatever, where those things are external forces that sort of influence you, with the abuser, it is an intentional indoctrination. An intentional addiction is being created inside of their partner, so that when the partner needs to leave, they find it almost impossible to do so. And so we're going to now focus on these things that they do, but more so from the angle of the effect that they have on people. If you want a broad, deep dive into the signs, the tactics of the abuse, please go and watch the first installment of this video. It's right there on my page. We're not going to dwell on that. What we're going to dwell on are the effects that they have on you. Number 2, constant criticism. We all know what criticism is. There is a difference between constructive criticism and abusive criticism. Now, if someone says, hey, listen, this is how I think this can be done better, there's nothing wrong with that. That's constructive criticism. With constructive criticism, you grow, you develop, you get better when you implement the advice, when you take on the suggestions. With abusive criticism, you actually erode. And I'll explain what I mean. Your abuser tells you, don't dress like this. Don't wear your hair like that. Don't wear your makeup like that. Don't talk like this. You are too fat. You are too thin. You are too loud. You are too whatever. They find things about you to criticize. A quick way you can know that this is abusive criticism is this. When you implement the change, they just find another thing to criticize. When you implement the change, and you don't get better, it never gets better. They just find another thing to pick at. So, don't wear red lipstick. You stop wearing red lipstick. It now becomes, oh, I don't know, this makeup, in fact, the way you do your makeup self is just, I don't know, it just doesn't do something. You're finer without makeup. Before you know it, you stop wearing makeup. That's just a very, very basic example. The criticism is not designed to build. The criticism is designed to break down. That is how you know when you're dealing with, whether you're dealing with constructive criticism or with abusive criticism. The abuser attacks your personality, your abilities, your appearance, your thought process, the way you do things. They attack you as a person, everything that makes you up. So they attack even your body composition. Like, they will attack anything, especially things that you cannot control. That is something that I've noticed. And they often disguise this as constructive feedback. So, you can't tell your wife or your girlfriend, oh, babe, you're beautiful. Oh, you look really beautiful in that outfit. You see her, you know she looks beautiful, triggers your fear that you're going to lose control. So instead of saying, babe, you look beautiful, you're going to wear that. You can't wear that. This dress it's not good for like your body type, like your body shape. This can look like frequent, unsolicited remarks and suggestions and comments about the victim's behavior, their choices, their decisions. You choose to take a job in a different place. They start to break you down for it. They make you feel stupid. Why would you leave that job? What is wrong with you? This one, that one, that one. Meanwhile, you are miserable at this other job. You're not functioning at your optimum, and you know that you can do better somewhere else. You go and apply for a different job, and you decided to leave this old job. In fact, you even get the other job. The next thing is, this job, at least this place, you had security there. Why did you have to leave this place to go to this other place? This is what I'm saying. You need to learn to be wise. You need to learn to make wise decisions. And you sit there thinking, oh, this person really cares about me. They want me to make wise decisions. But you don't also understand why you've left that conversation feeling like you are unable to make wise decisions. Now, what is the intended effect of constant criticism? It is meant to erode your self-esteem and make you believe that you are inherently flawed, that there is something inherently wrong with you. I know someone who once said something, this was an abusive person in my life, and she said, there's just something wrong with the way you are. Yeah. This was an older woman in my life. She said, there's just something wrong about you. There's something wrong with the way you are. And I was young when I heard this. So they want to erode your sense of self to the point where you become dependent on their own version of you, so that you now begin to seek the approval of the abuser. All of a sudden, the only thing that is good about you is what they tell you is good. If they don't say it's good, it's not good. Even if you like it, even if you love it, even if it makes you happy. I'm going to give you an example. An abusive mother, a narcissistic mother, who is afraid that someone coming into her child's life is going to mess around with her control over that child. She will ruin that relationship. She will make sure that you think something is wrong with you for picking that person. Obviously, making you think something is wrong with that person. But if that doesn't work, she can make you think something is wrong with you for picking that person. And if she has worked her children well enough, they don't see anything that she disapproves of as good, even if they like it, even if it is good for them. That is one of the intended effects of constant criticism. You abandon your perspective of yourself and self-esteem for the abusers. And then you begin to seek after their approval of you. If they do not give you esteem, it feels like you do not have it. There's a way that emotional abuse is normalized over time, and this is what makes it so dangerous. One of the hardest parts about emotional abuse is how subtle it can be. Your abuser rarely starts with screaming, rage, breaking things, hitting you. They don't start big, well, unless they're love bombing you. They start the abuse little, subtle, small ways. Things that seem harmless at the time. It's like if someone steals 1 naira from you, it means nothing. If they steal 5 naira from you, it doesn't really mean anything. But if they steal 5 naira from you 10 million times, calculate how much money has been taken away. That's how emotional abuse works. If you get cut on your hand here, there's nothing to it. You're just gonna put a band-aid on it, it's fine. But if you get cut here, you get cut all over. Before you can stave the bleeding here, before you can stop the bleeding here, you're bleeding out of here, you're bleeding out of here, and you've bled out. That's pretty graphic. But emotional abuse is very serious and very harmful. That's what it actually does to your mind. Over time, the abuse escalates. It always does. But by that time, It often feels like it's normal because this has happened so long. You now begin to question yourself. Where things were unacceptable before, you start to ask yourself, am I overreacting? Maybe I'm just too sensitive. Is it me that's the problem? Am I the narcissist? What did I do to make him upset? What did I do to make her upset? You start to question if this is just how relationships are supposed to be, and you're asking for too much. If you leave, are you going to meet anybody else? Because maybe this is just what happens in relationships. It's easy to miss the signs when they come wrapped in a package or in gestures that on the surface seem so small, insignificant, and sometimes even innocent. The scary part is that this kind of abuse is so under the radar that it can go on for years and years undetected. But that doesn't mean that the damage it causes is not there. Emotional abuse is not always loud. It's not always obvious. But its damage runs deep, sometimes deeper than we can immediately see, because the wound is invisible, one that is so often hard to see, but even harder to heal. Now, if you have ever felt trapped, manipulated, unfairly treated, used, misused, if you feel like a shadow of yourself, if you feel like I'm different in a negative way, before I came into this relationship, I wasn't like this. If you feel confused, if you feel afraid, if you feel anxious, trust your gut. Trust your feelings. If you have even once, ever once, even in the silence of your own mind, asked yourself, am I being abused? Is this person abusing me? Even if you've asked it just once, please trust your gut. I'm not saying leave, I'm saying investigate. I'm saying interrogate. Interrogate that feeling. Don't just put it away or try to put it under the rug. It's there for a reason. It's telling you something. Please listen. I'm going to end this by saying you deserve so much more than becoming the shadow the abuser has fought you and attacked you from. You deserve so much more. You deserve so much more than diminishing in the very place that is supposed to give you life and help you thrive and blossom and bloom. A relationship is not the place you go to disintegrate and die. It's a place where two living people come together and create a better, more beautiful life for each other. And if that's not what you're experiencing, I beg you, please interrogate at the very least. And if you think you have the strength, leave. Thank you so much for watching this second installment of the emotional abuse series here on BamBAEzled. It's important to break it down like this so that I don't glom everything into one long episode. I want people to be able to take their time with these. It will take time to absorb all this information, and that's what I want. So stick with me. We're going to get through this series. It's a long one, but it's an important one. If any of these things we've talked about resonates with you in any way, even a little bit, please know that you're not alone. You are not by yourself. You will not believe how many women and men are going through abusive relationships or are in emotionally abusive situations and they have found help. I know leaving your partner is a scary thing, and I'm not advocating for that. There are people who have actually been able to work through these things with their partner and come out good on the other side. That's possible, but don't just wallow and stay there and keep experiencing this when you can have so much better. There are resources available. If you need help, please reach out to me. All my socials, I'm Annie Icha on all my socials, ANEEICHA. Send me a DM, send me a tweet. I don't know how those things work. Send me an email. The email is in the bio here. And I will hook you up with help and the necessary resources. The more we recognize these patterns, I'm telling you, the more equipped we are to help ourselves, to help the ones we love, and even hopefully to help the people who abuse others. Maybe if they knew better, they would do better. I would ask that if this has been helpful to you, you share it with someone who you think it will be helpful to as well. I'm going to ask you to please subscribe if this content resonates with you. Please share, comment. I'd like to see your experiences in the comment section. It helps other people to know that they're not so alone. And I look forward to reading from you as well. So please share your experiences in the comment section. Share this video with as many people as you can and consider subscribing. I would love that very, very much. All right, you know what time it is? Sign off with me. In life, we can always do better or we can do worse. Let's make sure that we find ourselves in the former more than we are in the latter. Stay safe out there in these relationship streets. Don't bamboozle or be bamboozled by Bae. I will see you again in the next episode. Until then, please let love guide you always. Bye for now.